Welcome back to the Fly the Flag podcast. We're a mortgage show talking to mortgage people about mortgage things. I'm Mike Mfaraci. This is Jonny Fowler, but you don't need to know that because our names are down there at the bottom of the screen. You probably could have just read those yourself. But how you doing, Jonny?
I am doing awesome, and I spelled my name correctly, so there's no excuse for somebody getting it wrong.
Perfect.
I'm doing awesome. It is coming up on springtime. Other than pollen and allergies and all that stuff going on, the weather is perfect. Travel has been good. I'm on my way. I'll be out in Oceanside, California next week. So
I'll be there.
That one.
I'm looking forward to seeing you.
And
in person.
Things are going great, man. We've got some amazing things coming on. We have been recruiting, bringing people in like crazy.
That's awesome.
And I'm so lucky. We've got some of the best names in the business here in the past little bit. Brought on Sean Smiley, brought on Jeremy Smith. Got a ton of people coming on, and it's just been we
recently onboarded Andrew Andreessen, which is an old friend of mine from a previous life, which I was super happy to see his name pop up.
That's awesome.
So yeah, super cool. Just real quick before we get started with the episode, I mean, you're on a lot more of these recruiting calls than I am. What is the one thing that really sticks out when you see people kind of the light go off, or there's an aha moment or something like that? What is the one thing that people hear and they're like, okay, now it's all coming together for me?
For me, I think it's the fact that we really are different. What I mean by that is everybody says, we're family oriented, or, one of these things. But when you get right down to it, they're extremely, extremely rigid. One of the things that has always just blown my mind about us, and this is one of the things that I brag about, is the fact that, and this.
Yeah.
How many CRMs do we have? How many points of sale do we have? How many different, not only, everybody says, oh, we've got all these products, and then you ask them and it's just Freddie Franny stuff.
Yeah.
But when you look at it, how many actually have a true construction of perm department inside that can do rehab loans, $5,000 loans that you can do inside? How many have systems that are inside to where you take care of the payments? And then the fact that we don't care if you broker, we don't care if you bank. I
don't want to say we don't care, but we're openly willing to make those things available for the stuff that we can't accommodate in-house.
Correct. Yeah.
It's silly to think. It's silly for any mortgage bank to think they can do it all.
Well, not only that, but what I've noticed over the past, matter of fact, in May, it'll be 28 years, maybe 29 years that I've been in this business. The fact that you are correct. You can't cater to everybody, but there's also not a reason to be so stodgy that you say, no, you're not allowed to broker that loan out.
Even though we don't, pride getting in the way.
It is. And I get a kick out of it when people ask, and that's a big one, because that's one of the first ones. And I want to call it a defensive move. Is when people coming on, when they start asking questions that really, in my opinion, doesn't really pertain to the subject at hand. When they start saying things like, what LOS do you use? Which one do you want to use? Which POS do you use? Which one do you want to use? What CRM? Which one do you want to use? We're signed up with like 13 different ones.
Yeah.
So for me, that's one of the biggest things is when people hear that, they don't listen to it. And then when they come to the realization that, oh, holy shit, really, I can do any of this. I can do all of this. And I'll give you a prime example. So our friend, Scott Middleton, that we've interviewed before, just brought on a new group out of Louisiana that's also a friend of mine. The group out of Louisiana is somewhat techie. They want to use a POS. They want to have everything talking to each other. Well, Scott and Jared just want to get loans closed. That's what they worry about. So the questions have been asked to Scott and Jared, which of these systems do I use? And it's gotten to the point now where Scott says, just pick one and tell us which one it is, and then we'll use that one.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. I love that. It's all about it's just making things available, making tools available. From what I've seen, the strength in the company has always been transparency.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurial mindset and transparency. Just making information available to people because there's really nothing to hide. There's so many companies out there who you go through the process and then you ask for the information and, oh, well, we can't give you that information, but we can give you this information. And we can't tell you those numbers, but we can tell you these numbers. And it's the transparency is not there. And for anything, commonly it's pricing. A lot of people ask for pricing transparency, and that's never been a problem at AFN, but I know I've heard a lot of horror stories.
Massively. And I will tell you, for me, coming from outside of AFN, it has been very, and there's still, I haven't gotten to the point to where I'm still comfortable with that, because I'll be on calls and I was on a recruiting call and I heard, I believe it was either Matt or John, I'm not positive, Matt or John say something about how strong our balance sheet was on the call. Now, we're a privately held company.
Sure.
So that information is private. It's private information. Yes. But they just dropped it and said it like, it was just, and it's one of those ones where when I heard it, it's like, oh shit, did he just say that out loud? One of those kind of things. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm not going to repeat it, but I know that we have that transparency. So it's still very difficult for me after 10 months of getting comfortable with some of this stuff.
Yeah, you'll get there. It's all right. Listen to Matt and John talk about it enough times, and you'll get there.
Oh, there's no talk
I'm still not to the point to where I mean, I've been with the company for over 8 years. I'm still not to the point to where I'll say that stuff out loud either. So
exactly. I know that I'm going to get yelled at for
weird. It feels weird.
If I'm going to get yelled at, I want to get yelled at for something good, not something.
That's right. That's right. And speaking of something good, that's a perfect transition into our guest today.
It is. And I am so this, in my opinion, and I'm looking forward to this interview, and I don't know if you have dealt with somebody in this position or not, but in my opinion, this is one of the most underutilized, missed positions by all agents, no matter what, no matter the volume. I think this is one of the positions that will get you to a greater volume. I think this is one of the positions. I'm married to a real estate agent, and I listen to the cursing and spitting and all of that. So I'm really looking forward to bringing Tawni in.
Fantastic. Well, without further ado, let's welcome in our guest for today's show, Tawni Jehnke.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely. We're full.
No need for cartwheels or anything like that. It was just standard applause.
I love it. I don't get that greeting like when my kids are around or my husband. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Isn't that kind of amazing? You keep all those people alive and they could care less.
Yeah. That's right.
So before we actually hit record on this conversation, Johnny did mention how much of a disservice your job title does to what you do. So what is your job title? It's transaction coordinator, correct? So
correct.
So we're going to talk a lot about what you do, how you push forward real estate transactions, the benefits, the downsides that you help people avoid, what you love, what you don't love, how you got to where you are. And I'm going to make it my personal mission. Johnny, please join me if you can. We got to think up a better job title for her.
I agree. Good point.
I like that.
All right, we'll figure it out. Maybe we'll figure something out. It'll be Tawni the wizard of real estate. I don't know. We'll make you something fun by the end of the show.
Queen of contracts.
There we go. Yeah.
I don't like transaction coordinator. Yeah. I think it sounds like you're a cashier at a Golden Corral or something like that. Yeah. But
there's nothing wrong with Golden Corral. I love Golden Corral.
No, but it's not the same thing. I'm not going to go to Golden Corral to buy a $500,000 house.
Right.
But I think your position, in my opinion, is something, obviously it's still fairly new. It's still fairly fresh,
sure.
But I think it is one of the not only most necessary, but there's a number of reasons. One of them is very few people are actually good at paperwork. And I see this all the time from the perspective of being married to a real estate agent is that the other side gets the paperwork wrong most of the time. There's something that's wrong. The other part about it is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think I am, is when you've got one person representing a buyer, you've got one person representing a seller, there is some emotion in that.
Oh yeah.
And they hold this very tightly, and it's very guarded kind of thing. I think if people would start getting used to using a system like what you have in place, it takes so much of that emotion out of this very large transaction that it makes it much easier, much smoother, much better for what it is that you do. So talk to us about that.
Well, I love hearing your feedback, because I always feel long-winded when I say the title transaction coordinator. I'm always like, how do I describe that? And it does feel very not personal, like you said, a cashier, or like I'm just behind a computer. How I've gotten most of my business.
When some people introduce somebody to their transaction coordinator, that's also that may also be their processor. That may also be their receptionist. That may it's somebody who's wearing many different hats, and they're also handling this thing because they're there to answer the phone and respond to an email if I'm available.
Well, and I think it takes out the personal part of what we do. So I tell people, like, you know, when I'm trying to meet an agent or explain what I do, I'm like, the thing that I'm still contributing is that personal relationship. But like Johnny's saying, take the emotion out, because we all know it happens in real estate. It happens in, the medical field. There's always that emotion. And when you have that liaison, I guess we could call it, and that in between to say, hey, I've got you, I've got the other side. Let me be the in between. You can filter through me. Don't shoot the messenger, but I'm not emotionally invested in this like these agents are. So I like what you said about that, Johnny, because it does get super emotional. And I've had agents that are talking crap about the other agent, and then it doesn't offend me, because I can pick and choose what I communicate to the other. And I can even choose to say, if I tell so-and-so what they just said, that's going to sizzle this deal. Sure. So I'm going to, again, try to be that personal contact that just shares what is necessary. And I don't need to say, oh, by the way, they're insulted by your offer. How about I just say, they want to counter, and what do you want to do about that? Let me know.
Yeah, there's what is that called in the legal court system when somebody does that, Mike?
The moderator.
The moderator.
Yeah.
You're a moderator, but it sounds to me like you're more of a real estate therapist at this point.
Good point.
I will
like
say
you have both agents coming to sit on your couch.
Well, it's funny because I do get every now and then, like, I will get agents that are just, again, that emotion plays into it. And this is not to brag on myself, but I worked in healthcare for 12 years. I was a registered nurse, and, and I did, I did a lot of case management, which is similar to what I do now, but I would go in between the doctor, the patient, and I was the messenger. So I think I've always been used to, I'm very good at portraying or giving information. And I'm also really good with people. So when there is an agent that's like going off in a text message or an email, I don't have to share that with the other agent, or else I've just created this whole web, but I can still get the message across and get the deal to go through. But it also saves them and spares them from having a bad taste in their mouth of each other.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think
it's going to happen.
More professional. I think that having that middle person liaison that has no emotion in it, for you, I don't want to say it to where it sounds snide. Mike probably has a better way to say it, but to you, it doesn't matter to you if the transaction closes or not. Yeah. It doesn't matter if the curtains stay or not.
Yep.
You've got the contract, the legal paperwork, and you've got two people to work in between. without any emotion. I love that about that job.
What you're basically providing is an escrow service for the information that's pertinent to the transaction. You are the disinterested third party.
Yes.
Who doesn't have any financial gain or loss committed to the transaction. You don't have a dog in the fight. You don't have any emotion tied to one side or the other. So you're able to filter that stuff out from either side, because the real estate transaction is a highly emotional one. The vast majority of the time. And having somebody in your position doing what you do is so much more valuable than people think at first glance or at first thought, just because taking that emotion out of the equation when you do convey the information that you need to and get it from one side to the other makes things just more logical and more understandable, and will most of the time proactively snuff out any flames that could come about.
Yes. And I'll even say, like, I've had a couple, this doesn't happen like a ton, but this one's fresh on my mind. One of the agents that has used me for a while had some drama with her own client. He got to the point, and it was so funny because she was just like, I've never had this happen before. He didn't want to talk to her anymore. But we were a week and a half from closing, and literally, and I'm not bragging, but he just goes, hey, I will only talk to Tawni. Like, I'm just done talking with you. And she was like, you know what? She goes, I'm so glad I have, this is, a text message after another. I'm so glad I have you, because I think he might have tried to finagle some way to get out of this, because they're now at odds. And he goes, I have no qualms with you, Tawni, so I will only talk to you. Again, that's happened one other time in 5 years, but I think it's like I'm unbiased. I'm totally unbiased to either side. Of course, I represent my agent, but I also represent my agent well. But when we're getting into the emotion, the cussing, the snarkiness, I don't do any of that. And also, I'm not a licensed agent, which I think is a good thing.
Yep.
Because I'm strictly there. There's no conflict of interest. And I always tell agents, in my observation in 5 years, agents are a different type of personality. I am a different type of personality. Rarely do I find agents that love paperwork, but rarely do I find someone who, like me, I'm a nerd about paperwork. I am not a business go-getter, entrepreneur type of person. I love behind the scenes. When I worked as a registered nurse, I, considered going to NP school and actually started a program. I quickly realized I like having direction and taking it and doing something with it, but I'm not going to be the person that's in the front row as a real estate agent. So there's no competition. I can't take your clients. I have no agenda to get, to become a licensed agent, but I also think that gives me an approach to a transaction that maybe a realtor is not going to have, if that makes sense.
And the flip side of that is real estate agents don't make any money filling out paperwork.
Right.
That's the reality of it. They need to be out selling, just like mortgage guys need to be out selling.
Sure.
And I will tell you, from being a sales guy, I hate paperwork. It is the bane of my existence. I don't even know why we have it. And
it's 2023. The word paper.
Right. And I'm like sitting here with I've got pens. I've got my nerdy day planner, my like pens, everything all around. So I know exactly what you're saying, but that's what I tell people is I'll do the paperwork that you hate to do because for whatever reason, I thoroughly enjoy it.
And to follow up to what I was saying is, it's not just the fact that we hate paperwork. It's the fact that we hate paperwork for a number of reasons. One, we don't like doing it. But two, we're always worried that we're going to forget something.
Right.
And by having somebody like you that not only knows they're not going to forget something, that you're responsible for that also, to make sure to cover my ass, to make sure that everything's right, because I'm going to. I am not going to remember everything. The addendum, I'm not going to remember to get signatures on, something will be there.
Yeah.
And that's where,
Well, and then you get to, like, again, without selling myself, you get to go as an agent, go out and get business, go out and get contacts, because that's what you're good at. I don't excel at those things, but I will be here to make sure our dates are lined up, to make sure the earnest money's in, make sure things are scheduled. It's almost like I tell them, hand it over to me, and you can just go, okay, I'll be at closing. There might be some negotiation when we get down to repairs and those kinds of things. But for the most part, when they're handing that over to me, what they always say is they immediately breathe.
Yes.
Because they're like, she's got it. And I'm going to fine tooth comb everything so that you don't have to. And when you think about whether it's a $200,000 house or a $2 million house, my fees don't change. So you're still getting, you're getting excellent work, whether you're selling the tiniest of houses or $1 million home.
For the agents that might be interested in contacting you or looking for something similar to this from somebody in their area, whatever it is, what are your fees and what are the typical fees? That you see in your industry
Sure. So I have, I'm 5 years in, and just like in healthcare, you get better every year. You go up in your fees or what you make in your salary.
They're not just paying for you for this transaction. They're paying you for your last 5 years of experience leading up to the transaction, because that's what taught you to handle this transaction so well.
Right. So what I typically do is I will offer 2 packages to an agent. The cheaper package, I charge $350, and that is strictly, I don't really do any communication as far as, let me think of an example. I'm going to check deadlines, but I'm really just mainly going to upload your paperwork. Because even that, agents are like, girl, I don't want to even know my login. I just want you to put it in for my broker. I want to get paid. Yep. If you just don't want to ever log in, $350, all of your stuff will be updated. I'll get signatures and all that. If you want the total package, which is more so the only time that they're really contacted are for 2 things. Do you want to be at the closing? Let me coordinate with you and the client to get you both there. And then secondly, repairs, because I don't negotiate repairs just because I'm not licensed. And, but
you have to in that.
Right. And even in that $500 package, I'm still going to be the one that's getting Joe Schmo to come check the septic out. I'll let you know when he's there. I'll get the invoice to your client. So $350 is strictly, you're still in the driver's seat with communication. I'm just putting in your paperwork, but you're going to get paid, but you don't have to ever log in. And then $500 is pretty much like me heading up the whole thing.
Tell me that doesn't make sense, Mike.
I mean, based on the percentages that agents are actually making on these closed transactions.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes that's funny to me because I'm like looking at I'm getting their commission check all put in, and I'm like, just laughing. My husband will go, "You sure you don't want to get your license?" And I'm like, "No, right. I work for some awesome
start
people."
Charging your fees and percentages. I don't know.
Right, that's what he says. He's like, "Is there anybody?" I'm like, "Nobody does it like that." But then again, it's a great benefit for an agent because they're not going, "Well, this house is only $350. She's not going to give me as quality of work." It doesn't work like that. I'm going to walk away with the same payment. You're going to get great help for this little $350,000 versus, we've done $2 million homes. And in Nashville, our price range, I rarely see under 500, just in the market that we're in. But it's not a matter of like, you get a better version of me if the house costs more. Cause again, I'm unbiased. I'm making my fee regardless.
It's hard to make it work in mortgage and real estate when it comes to fixed rate commissions or no commission plan salespeople type of thing. But anytime I see fixed fees per transaction, that just warms my heart because it guarantees that no matter what financial bucket, no matter where somebody's buying, no matter the loan amount, the transaction amount, it doesn't matter. The customer service is going to be the same from buyer and seller to buyer and seller across the board, no matter what. And in my opinion, that's how it should be.
Yeah. And
I understand the necessity of mortgage loan officers and real estate agents to get paid a percentage of the transaction amount. That's kind of the precedent that's been set. But there are a few business models out there that are going out with saying, hey, like, we don't pay our people commissions, we pay them salaries, or it's flat fee commissions based on transactions and or stuff like that. And especially in roles like you're in, or a mortgage loan processor, like the flat fee, I feel is super important, because it really does guarantee everybody that the customer service levels are going to be the same no matter what the transaction amount.
Yeah. And I'm glad you guys, highlight that, because I do find that, and I've seen some transaction coordinators that, they've got this whole menu of like, well, this gets you this and this. I just found it's really simple to say, I will do all of your paperwork. You don't have to log in. $500 per transaction. I have one agent out of, I would say, 6 that does the $350. And I think I find that in like maybe an older agent, they want more of the communication with the client, which I totally understand. Yep. But I do find out of 6, 7 agents, they all do, minus that one, they all do the $500, because they can still call their client. They're still in a relationship. I don't take over and become your client's realtor. I'm just the liaison. But
you're part of my team.
Right. I'm
That's
still
the big thing about it. You're part of my team, which makes me look better, makes me look more professional. And it also, all of my shortcomings, it fixes all of my shortcomings.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. And I mean, I truly, like, this is the other thing that I tell agents when I'll meet some and we'll get coffee and I'll share what I do. And I think it's taking your hands off a little bit. That's nerve-wracking. This is your business. Like, of course. But when I get 1 by 2, I say, hey, give me 3 total. I promise you will never want to not use me again. And typically by the first one, they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize how much paperwork I did. And like Jonny said, that they're not paid for. And hire a nerd that loves paperwork. Let me do the paperwork because I love it and you hate it. So why would you not outsource it?
It's only busy work if you don't like it.
That's right. And the other thing is, I tell them, I don't have to do this. Like, my husband's our, provider of our home, and it has a great job. He laughs at me. He's like, you crack me up. You love this work. And I'm 5 years in. I don't want to stop. I thrive on organization. I thrive on deadlines, and I thoroughly enjoy it. And I do honestly get to know my agents, and I want to be friendly with them to the point that, like, I want to see them go, I've got more free time, because I'm not going, I got to sit down this weekend and do all that paperwork. Let me do it for you. I'm an early riser. I go to bed late, and it's like, I just have these opportunities to get to do it. And then you get to go to closing and all your paperwork's done.
But it's not only free time, it is saving somebody's sanity.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, that's the big thing. And again, I watched my wife go through this on Sunday afternoons when everybody else in her family is off or whatever it may be. And, she's got a listing agent on one phone. She's got the customer on the other phone. She's trying to get, and the agent didn't put the title company information into the MLS. They didn't put any of the HOA information. Agents are really bad about doing everything to get the property into the MLS. Yep. So it doesn't get any easier afterwards. Mm-hmm. I think, and I really think that in your position, I think that there is so much more room to expand, because that's the biggest thing. And you hear that complaint. I talk to 10 to 20,000 agents a year, and I hear that complaint all the time about how bad the listing agent, didn't put the information into the MLS, or how the agent didn't put this in the contract, or the agent put in non-real estate related stuff into the contract, and now we've got to do an addendum, all of those things. This is, in my opinion, one of the greatest things. I think there's expansion in there, but I do think that there needs to be a better title for it. And I do think more people need to use someone like you for this to save their sanity.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
for any of the agents out there that drink, it'll drop their bar tab massively.
Well, and like what you said, Jonny, about like the contract, that's one of the things where, I'll notice like you're talking about. A few weeks ago, the address was wrong. So the earnest money went to the wrong place. It was a huge ordeal. The title company was upset. The other side was mad because they're like, where's the earnest money? Well, you put in the wrong address. But you know what? Not one time did my agent.
What I meant.
Yeah.
You knew that I wasn't using Stewart title. You knew that I was using Chicago title. And if you didn't, you should have asked.
Well, and I think honestly, it was like they put in something and they forgot the suite number and the check never got there. Long story short, my agent that I work for never had to hear or be bothered by any of it, by none of it. Why would she need to? I've got connection with the title company. I've got connection with the other agent. I don't need to say, hey, just wanted to let you know, dealing with this ordeal, the earnest money never arrived. It was like, she still has no idea that was, an annoying day and a half of the check got mailed back to the client. He had to redo it. He was annoyed, but she was never bothered by that. And I will say too, if you have a good, whatever they want to call us, we should change the name. I agree. Well, if you have a good one, they need to be a people person.
Maybe we have a good coordination queen.
Yes, I like that.
There we go. That's not too bad.
That.
We're working title. We're still working.
I think HBIC is probably not going to be. It's going to be frowned upon.
What would it stand for?
HBIC.
Yeah. I'm writing that.
This is a family podcast.
Uh-oh.
Head in charge.
Okay.
Well, but yeah, something like that says, whether it's management's in the word, I don't know what, but I do agree. It's a name that does kind of.
We don't want to call you a real estate fire extinguisher. That's just part of what you do.
Then they're like, is she getting rid of our business?
Transaction manager may be a better word.
Yeah. I know the old term was contract to close coordinator, which is a mouthful. But again, some of the older agents think of it
industry
as
loves their acronyms and their alliteration, doesn't it?
Right. Yeah. But there's just certain things that I think, and I have family in real estate. My sister's a realtor, which is how I kind of started doing this. But we are night and day. We are polar opposites, and she'll say, "You're just so weird." But you light up about paperwork, so I'm like, I don't ever meet agents that like what I do and vice versa. Why would you not hire someone? Just like if you're in any kind of job, if you can outsource something that allows you're either going to pay in time or money. So if you can outsource your free time to get your time back where I'm offering my time, it's a no-brainer to me.
It makes perfect
sense. No question.
Sense.
And I'm sure it comes through in how happy you are to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, and anybody who's been watching or listening knows how you feel about this, because you can't hide that. You just you can try as much as you want, but you can't hide when someone's passionate about something.
Yeah,
and that's incredibly clear.
Yeah,
that Tawni loves what she does.
Yeah.
Even though
I do.
she might be a little bit of a weirdo for loving what she does.
Absolutely,
that's okay. That's okay. There's always room for weirdos and nerds when it comes to stuff in all areas, Let
me throw one more thing in there.
Finding somebody like you is way more difficult than finding somebody who likes to sell a house.
Yeah.
Agreed. So let me throw one more thing in there, Mike. Here's one of the cool things about it. When she said she's not licensed, you know what that means? She can do California. She can do Tennessee. She can do Texas. She can do Illinois. She can do Florida. She can do anywhere somebody needs her because of what she does.
Yeah.
Are you in business for yourself?
Say that again, Mike. I'm sorry.
Are you in business for yourself?
I am. Yeah.
Okay. So you just do this on a contract basis.
Yes. Yeah. There's no like set. I know there are some that require so many a month. I've never found that to be beneficial. I think it's kind of like the not having the flat fee. I think the asset that I can bring is, I don't care if you give me one or $8 a month. And I'm going to charge the same. So, I've been doing this now and it's grown. And I was telling Jonny last week when we talked, it's like, and kind of what you're saying too, I think you just can't really hide passion. And I used to kind of I would not be down on myself, but when I worked in the hospital, the nurses would say, why do you love like the documentation? And I'd go, I don't know. I love the patient care, but I would enjoy sitting and documenting all of my work. No nurses enjoy that. So when I came out of healthcare and I was at home, I told my husband, I was like, I want to have like something for myself. What am I good at? And he would always say, you are administratively killer. What could you do? And so I think, I don't just enjoy it. I also really enjoy getting to know these agents and creating a friendship with them where they feel like that sense of, like I said, just, I can breathe. You've got it. I'm not going to miss a deadline. I'm not going to miss an inspection, resolution period, because that's my job. And yes, you can have it in the back of your head as an agent, but you've got a second person that's eyeballing, hey, we're running up, it's midnight and, or we've got until midnight to hear from them. You need to maybe step in and say something. But for the most part, I've told you the day before, just a heads up, we need to hear from them by tomorrow at midnight. And they're going, oh, thank you for reminding me. I never would have remembered and we would have been out of contract. So
since we are a mortgage podcast, I do like to look for little bits and little tips for our fellow mortgage people. How often do you have mortgage loan originators approaching you to network with you and see if there's any realtors that
right,
that you might be able to refer them to see if they can build relationships and things like that? Does anybody ever reach out to like what Jonny said, the infamous transaction manager extraordinaire about this stuff, or do you get bypassed because they just want to talk to the realtor directly?
So typically what I do is, and that was a contact I should have said, is title, and then the lender is who I'm always talking to. Yeah. So I wouldn't say, I feel like there's a bit of a disconnect with like, hey, do you connecting me with an agent for what I do? But I will tell you, there's many times that I will enjoy working with a lender, and this is not just blowing smoke. Sure. I have purchased 2 houses with a lender from an agent because I liked how they communicated with me. And I told my husband, I said, just on his emails alone, we've bought 2 houses with him. My mom ended up buying a house with him because I was the point of contact and he was a friendly lender who I wanted to work with him. And I've referred him now to multiple people, and he'll say, how did we meet again? And I'm like, 4 years ago, you did a deal for my agent and I loved you. So there's a not so much of where they're seeking me out. But I will say in the transaction, I am the only point of contact with that lender. So that agent is never, I can't think of a time where the agent would be contacted by the lender. It's typically me doing that.
And that's exactly my point.
Exactly.
Maybe lenders should be seeking you out.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure that you're in contact with way more active agents than they probably are.
Yeah, for sure.
And if they can give excellent service, then I'm sure that you would not only recommend them to friends and family who are looking for a lender, but maybe other agents that you work with who are looking for a reputable and dependable lender to work with.
Yes, absolutely.
And she's a crazy filter.
Yes.
So, Tawni, tell me who you work with in Nashville that is not absolutely insane to work with as a realtor. Blah blah blah. What are those kind of things?
Yeah, totally. Well, and I'm so serious. This was like 2018. I don't remember who the agent was, but I was like, hey, I contact the lender and I was like, this is me. I'm the transaction coordinator. If you need anything. He was just so friendly, talked to me like I was a human being. And then a year later, when my husband and I were buying a rental and buying our primary, I was like, who was that guy? And that's who we used, Freedom Mortgage. And he was awesome. And then when my mom bought a house last year, I said, you got to use Jonathan. He was great. So I do agree. And I'll tell you this too. I always tell agents, you can look at my emails. You can look at my text messages at any time. I'm an open book. I will always communicate with anyone. I don't care how you speak to me, if you're super friendly or just not friendly at all. You can go through my emails. I will always talk to people in the same tone of respect and kindness, because I'm from the South and maybe old school, but you kill them with kindness. Even if you're a jerk, you won't tell in my email that I think you're a jerk. And you do, every now and then you get like a sour apple, but for the most part, the way I talk to them just creates this relationship where they're like, hey, I've loved working with you. Like, I'd love to work with you again, because it all comes back, and it's a small community. Everybody knows everybody. So I'm always going to err on the side of being super friendly and kind versus I don't get sassy. I will, to my husband, but not to anybody.
As stated in the 43 previous emails.
Yeah.
That's the one I love. As I have repeatedly told you.
Yes, exactly. I just, because here's the thing. If they've done this before, I'll have a screenshot sent to my agent, and it'll be like a compliment to me. I've had so many just people say, hey, your girl was great. I already have one, but if I didn't, I'd love to hire her. Or, I might, contact her down the road if I'm ever in need of one. And I'm thinking, you need one right now because you're terrible at your paperwork. But, but yeah, I hope this will allow people to kind of see a face to what I'm doing, and that it's not, there's services out there. I know there's Transactly and there's a couple other, but you don't know who you're getting. Right. And if you call, you're calling 1-800, you're getting whoever's on call at that time. This is a person, you're paying $500 to really add another personal relationship. And I promise you, your clients will feel it, because they will have responses by me within 4 hours. They won't be going, why haven't I heard from anybody? And they're going to be treated on top of how your agent's already treating you. You're going to have that personal relationship with me. So if you're like, I need an answer right now, you've not only got your agent you can ask, you can also ask me. So you're just adding that bit of oomph where I think it stands out from an agent trying to juggle everything. Because when you have an agent closing 6-7 deals a month, there's no way they can give every client their attention. They can't. So
they can if they're doing what they specialize in, which is the sale. They can't if they are the salesperson, the closing coordinator, the transaction coordinator, the therapist, the Uber driver. That's where the
That's where they scheduling, and because the septic guy's got to come back out. We forgot the lockbox code to the house. You're not going to get bugged with that. I will, but you will not.
Hey, so Mike, can we share her information?
I was going to say, for all the agents out there who are looking for a leveled up top tier real estate transaction manager who for some reason absolutely loves this part of the industry. And also for the mortgage people out there who want to share your information with their realtor network, because that would be a super valuable introduction to make and a huge value add for a mortgage person to be able to offer to a real estate partner. Where can people get a hold of you?
So Jonny knows I'm new to Facebook, but I am on there, Tawni Jehnke. And then my email is just my name with a dot in the middle, tawni.jehnke@gmail.com.
Cool. And I'll include your email in the show notes or the video description, wherever you're watching or listening to this. It'll be there also.
Yep. And that's the best way. That's how, I've gotten most of my business is just word of mouth. This I'm super excited about because I haven't done anything like this before. So I'm super thankful, but also really excited at the opportunity to, like Jonny said, I'm not limited to one state. State lines are irrelevant to what I do. Yep. But if you really want to just even do a trial, I kind of say that as a challenge, but like try this out and see if you don't notice a difference. And I guarantee you that you will, and you'll be like, oh, I have to, I can't go back to doing it myself. So,
Hey, Mike, I want to give you kudos. You just brought up a great point that I never ever thought about, and it's not because I didn't think about it. It's because you listen.
Yeah.
The fact that I, as a loan originator, can bring value to my real estate partners by making an introduction to somebody who's going to make their life easier is a hell of a service for me as a as a mortgage guy.
Absolutely.
To bring value to my realtors' lives. I think that's probably one of the biggest points that has been overlooked, and I am appreciative of it, because that's one of the things that I'm going to do is make those introductions, because this is something that will save real estate agents' sanity.
Yep, absolutely. And there's nothing better that you can do for your real estate agent network than provide them with information that is going to make their lives easier. They're always going to remember you for that. They're always going to thank you for that. And the only way to make life easier isn't just with your services that you can provide. If you're helping them build their networks and you're introducing them to people that can help them with things, I mean, that's huge.
Yeah.
And it's very plausible that if a real estate agent meets you through a lender, I mean, the natural lender to lean towards when recommending someone to their buyer is going to be the person who made that introduction to begin with. So it's just it's focusing more on, I mean, it's really popular for real estate, not real estate, but it's really popular for mortgage originators right now to focus on realtors and developing referral relationships and things like that, because it's a heavy purchase market, refis are down, all of that stuff. And the natural place that everybody thinks about going to is the real estate agent. But at the end of the day, like every non-creative, non-original loan officer in the friggin' country is going out and trying to service real estate agents directly. So maybe think out of the box a little bit and expand your thinking into networking with tangential markets. And not just tangential markets, but maybe other parties to the transaction. Maybe you talk to some home inspectors. Maybe you talk to some appraisal management companies, title people, escrow people. Start networking in that way. Maybe you find some rock star, reliable transaction managers who actually touch multiple real estate transactions on a daily basis. You don't just have to be an agent to be involved in the transaction. And not just that, but to have the ear of people who are in charge of pointing those transactions towards the finish line when it comes to different companies. So
Great
all my
point.
mortgage people out there, man, be more creative. You got to be more creative right now.
Love it. Love it. Tawni, I want to tell you, I appreciate you being on here. I appreciate you bringing this to us, bringing it to the market and letting people know what it is. And I am going to scream your name from the tallest mountains in the deepest valleys, just because, like Mike said, he and I both live this.
Yeah.
And you know, as he's talking about that, one of the things I'm thinking about is, you know, when I was originating loans, I knew some really good agents that were really bad at paperwork. And not only that, they were crazy because they were to the point of being abusive, that they were that bad with paperwork. So this is a great way. I'm hoping that every loan originator out there just blows up your freaking email.
Have to buy more gigabytes or whatever they're called.
There you go. That's right.
Thank you, guys. I mean
it.
It
Was a pleasure. Thank you so much
for
coming
taking
on.
time.
And this isn't all about work. Also, just want to say it on the pod because we mentioned it before. But Tawni's 6 months pregnant. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Lots of fun going on in the personal life. And
thank you, Mike. It's super sweet.
It's important. It's huge. And people should know about that too, because you're not just a transaction manager, you're a human being. And that's more important than any of this stuff, because work's just part of life.
That's right.
Yeah,
well, I appreciate you both.
Not at all.
I appreciate you both. Thank you so much again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good one, Tawni, and thanks for being on.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.